Yeah, my name's Eric Putkonen. I've been probably a spiritual seeker since in my mid-teens. Um, was a very great reader, and so I've read lots of books, various topics. Funny enough, never about non-duality. Um, then after about 13 years of this spiritual study, I kind of got fed up with the search. Seemed like every new book I read seemed to be a repeat of something I'd already read. And so I got this deep kind of intuitive feeling that it's not going to be found in a book. So I kind of gave up the search. Um, and then about a year or so later, um, Eckhart Tolle's name, Eckhart Tolle's name kept popping up. And I've been in spirituality long enough to know about synchronicities and stuff. So I'm like, okay, his name pops up 3, 4 times in a week. I should probably look into it. So, but I loathe the idea of reading yet another book. And so I went to the library to see if I could find a video. And lo and behold, they had one video by Eckhart Tolle, The Flowering of Human Consciousness. And so it was one of his early works. I think it was late 90s. And the video covered a lot of the stuff that I'd seen before, or terms I was familiar with, being present. And I always thought I was being present. Of course, that was the problem is you can't think your way present. It's not about thinking. And but he in the video he covered inhabiting the body. And so as I was getting very, very in touch with the feelings, sensations of the body and diving deep into the experience of now, my mind just quieted down and stopped. And it's not the first time I'd been totally present. I mean, everybody experiences moments of presence. I mean, I remember years prior when I was at Machu Picchu. I mean, there's a good 15 minutes. A thought didn't cross through my head. I was just so awestruck by the sight. And so, it's not the first time I was totally present, but the apple was right, so to speak. The wind hit, it fell. And so I woke up, and that was in November 2005. It was a non-dual realization. And then in the video, Eckhart Tolle also mentioned Ramana Maharshi. So I went over and got a book by Ramana Maharshi and was reading that and was floored. I'm like, this is it. This is exactly what happened. Because I didn't know what happened. I knew something happened. And then so reading Ramana and other works, you start picking up the terminology. And so I recognized after the fact it was enlightenment, awakening, liberation. Pick your term; they're all the same thing. And so I started not long after. I think about 6 months, year down the line, I started podcasting and did a podcast for a few years. And then when I ran out of stuff to talk about, I stopped. And then a few years later, I started blogging. Did that for a while till I couldn't think of anything else to talk about, and I stopped. And then I started a YouTube channel. So I have Enlightenment, non-duality, Enlightenment, non-duality simplified, or is it non-duality and Enlightenment simplified? I don't know, something like that.
Sounds complicated.
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding, huh?
the simplified's the key part. But basically, I started this channel, and I still do videos on occasion. I've been really busy lately as starting my own business and stuff, but. Basically, that's me in a nutshell. So I've been talking about this since 2005. So it's been pretty much a lived experience for almost 20 years.
Yes, so that's great. I mean, people, you can you can turn off YouTube right now because you heard it. I mean, you had the idea that you find something there, but then it will be divine grace that's going to happen to you. You can't make it happen.
Yeah, you can't make it happen. It's it happens of its own accord. It's a grace. There's different ways of pointing at it, but yeah, it happens to you. You don't cause it.
That's terrible. But you mentioned something that I find quite interesting. And I mean, we are men. We don't have feelings normally, or at least we don't cry about it. But feelings are important, I guess, because you said the feelings brought you back into presence and inside of your body. So can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, the way the inhabiting the body kind of exercise starts is it's a neat kind of a neat little exercise. So if you have your hands on your knees or whatever, and you close your eyes, and assuming you're in a room that's doesn't have an air current, don't have AC or something flowing on you, or you're keeping the variables down to a minimum. Um, and with your eyes closed, you raise one hand off your knee, and you ask the question, how do I know my hand is still there? And immediately the thinking mind might go, well, I don't know it's still there because there's no longer a sensation of being on object. There's nothing blowing over the hand. And so initially the mind will want to say, I don't know my hand's still there.
That
And
sounds scary.
well, the thing is when your hand is on your knee, you feel the contact. And so that's how it keeps its spatial reference. But if it's just kind of floating in the air, relaxed, you just raise your hand and let it just kind of float relaxed, and there's no air current, there's not enough stimulation for it to find its place. At least the overt, obvious stimulation that's used to. And so the question then becomes, you want to ignore that initial mental, I'm not positive, I don't know if my hand's still there. You want to kind of get past that and go, just kind of feel for it. What do I feel? And as you're paying attention to it, you may find there's a tingle, a warmth. You may feel a pulse. Actually, as you delve into it, you find out there's a whole lot of things you can feel.
Yes, yes. I'm sorry. I can still feel my hand. I mean, even if I close my eyes, there's something there.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, a lot of people, don't realize how much they can feel. So as you're delving into it, it's like, oh, I feel a warmth, I feel a pulse, so there's a tingle, and you just feel more and more and more. And then what Eckhart Tolle would say is now you try to feel both hands, and then you try to feel both feet, and then you just kind of work your way till you feel your body, basically. And that's what he calls inhabiting the body. Is you've always got a little bit of this awareness, because we're habitually outward focused. We're looking out into the world, and we keep almost nothing to our own bodies.
Thank you, Eckhart. Thank you so much. You brought us back to where we have been all the time.
Yeah, and so basically, yeah, it's keeping a little bit of awareness into the body, and so you're just feeling it. And it's like, and it may bounce around. You may at times notice a pulse. At times you might notice your posture. It's not like you need to have a constant thing. I mean, Zen makes a big deal of watching the breath, which is very similar. It's just keeping the attention on a body, one of the major body functions, and so observing the breath or feeling the breath is a good way of doing it. But it's an interesting thing that you're always trying to get past that mental, oh, I know it, or no, there's nothing there. The mind is very superficial. As soon as it thinks it's got enough data, it wants to move on. And so, the trick is trying to create the habit of diving deeper. It's like, yeah, I'm ignoring the mind. I'm going to keep feeling deeper. Because when I sometimes talk about being present or even meditation, I sometimes talk with people and I'll say, okay, I want you to, inhale through your nose. And I said, as you do that, feel that entirely. What's going on? So it's like, as you feel the air, do you feel it passing the upper lip? Do you feel it going? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, you're feeling everything? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, which nostril is predominant? And they're like, what do you mean? Well, there is a cycle that Indian health and physiology is known about, that the nostrils alternate throughout the day in predominance. And so as you're breathing, which one's predominant? It could be equal, which is fine too. But most people don't pay attention.
No, I never thought about that. I mean, I'm perplexed, and my nose is very perplexed. I heard some speech from Swami Vivekananda, and he's talking about bhakti yoga, and one of the first steps you do is like cleaning your channels. So you like close one ear, one side, then you breathe in, then you exhale through the other side, then you breathe in, then you close this one, and it goes on,
Yeah,
and this
I,
kind
I
of cleans out energy. Yeah.
I think it's I forget what it's called. Was it prana or something? I don't know. But yeah, I'm familiar with. It's a very classic.
Pranayama,
It, it's
pranayama, maybe.
it's one of the pranayamas, but I think it might be nadi pranayama. I'm not sure. But anyways, it's a very classic exercise. Yeah, and it's
Yes.
interesting because because the one of the things is it's kind of like when you talk about qigong, because if people are into qigong or tai chi, they come to learn that the energy flows through the body. There's a certain cycle and rhythm to things, and the cycle and rhythm is also reflected by the predominance of the nostrils, because what it is there is when the Ida and Pingala channels, the main channels of within the Indian system, are one is predominant, one nostril is active. When the other one's dominant, the other one's active. And so what you're doing in that exercise is you're actually forcing it to go back and forth and balance, which is kind of
Balance is so important. Yeah, I
it's
know.
a
I
balance and cleansing. And so you're basically activating the channels going back and forth, and it's cleansing them and balancing them. And so yeah, it's a very classic exercise. And sometimes it does stabilize and quiet the mind and bring calm, and it's kind of a nice exercise.
I was very lucky in my life. I was living with a Qigong master, and she tried several times to put me into exercise. And I did sometimes, but you see me here, I'm just sitting and I enjoy it. I don't like to practice. So I'm sorry, but did you do a lot of practice, like meditation and stuff before, or
You
how
know,
was it in your case?
I was a rather sporadic meditation person. Sometimes, I mean, I think I was in my late teens. There was, I found a local meditation group that got together in my area. I was in northern Minnesota at the time, and up there, there's not a lot going on. So, I mean, people drove from miles to show up because it was the only spiritual game in town, really outside of the normal Christian churches. And so, it was an eclectic group. I mean, there was Buddhists, there was Wiccans, there was Eckankar people. I mean, just a smattering of, and we all got together and meditated on a weekly basis. And that was probably some of my most consistent meditation, was at least on a weekly basis, I meditated with this group. My daily practice was sporadic at best. And sometimes months would pass and I wouldn't meditate. But
People
I,
miss the chance, you know. Sometimes you're like in line at the supermarket, or you're waiting, I don't know, you're waiting for the light bulb to change to keep on driving. I mean, this is all, there's so much space in our life. So
yeah,
we can use this time. We feel like, oh, I'm bored. I don't know what to do. Well, you're waiting, so try to go into a meditative state, you know. You have time to do that.
yeah. Actually, I recommend that now because I say, I'll say, you can really meditate. It's not really a separate state. I mean, really, meditation is just a deep, abiding awareness without thought. And so you can be fully aware and not thinking almost any time. I mean, that's why some people they don't like formal seated meditation, but they like walking in the woods. And I'm like, just be fully aware, not thinking, walking in the woods. That is meditation. So yeah, you
Get
can you
it?
can
Yeah, get a job in
you
the factory, and all day long you're like
oh
putting
yeah.
the screws.
Yep, driving in traffic, mowing the lawn, washing dishes, all the basic activities can be done that way. But I didn't learn that till later. I mean, so I basically was very sporadic in my meditation practice, but I like doing other spiritual practices. So I mean, over those 13 years, I did a lot of things like you know, different healing modalities, deep, diving into past traumas or overcoming fear or attachment, or I delved into that kind of stuff pretty regularly.
So you like to sit around with other people and talk about your problems, or what?
No, I did. I was all solo. It was all solo exploration.
Oh, okay.
So the group meditation was mostly heart centered, and so we'd get together with heart centered meditations. And then when I was on my own, I would delve into attachments and forgiveness. Actually, it was the heart-centered meditation that bridged me into forgiveness. And then I found that unloading of emotional baggage kind of worked its way into releasing traumas and so forth. So it was kind of a, you know, I took it beyond
Yeah,
just the heart-centered meditations.
there's a huge tool, which is called forgiveness in A Course in Miracles. I just found out, which is like they use it like to really liberate yourself. I don't know if that's the same type of forgiveness you were practicing. You know this book?
I read it once a long time ago.
Oh,
Um,
that's a big book, my friend. You're a good
I,
reader, I can tell.
yeah, well, I mean, when I was back in my day when I read a lot of big books. I mean, I made it through the Bible, the cover to cover, Quran cover to cover, most of the holy books, and it was yeah, it wasn't the most entertaining reading, but I made it through these weighty books.
Oh, wow. But
I
something kept you there, like really reading it.
Well, it was more or less of a curiosity because, so many people especially in college, they like starting up the conversations about religion or whatever, and they start throwing out quotes out of books. And without having read the book, you're not sure if they're quoting it correctly.
You're like the spiritual police.
Well, what I mean by that and I found this actually. I mean, I found this when I was in college because I mean, my college had a lot of Christian books. I mean, not Christian books, but Christian campus groups. And one of my neighbors was a member in my dorm. One of my neighbors was a member, and so he loved coming over and shooting the spiritual, religious conversations with me. And I found out over the course of talking to him, his friends, other people in his church, because he had invited me to come a few times. They all knew what was preached to them, but none of them had read the book. Because I had once asked one day, I said, we can't really take this conversation any further because I haven't read it in its entirety. I'm only about a third way through. And they kind of looked at me weird and they went, "You're reading it?" I'm like, "Yeah, cover to cover." And they kind of looked at each other and none of them had read it cover to cover. They were all throwing out the arguments and quotes that they were taught by their preachers. And
Yes,
so,
a lot of trust.
yeah, and I'm like, they might have got it wrong for all you know. You might want to read it.
Read the contract before you sign it.
Yeah, and but it was funny, and I got some respect for that because they're like, "Oh, that's impressive," but it was just a period of time I was really interested in the world religions. In college, actually, it's funny. I think I was 10 credits shy from a theology minor. I was often in the religious and spiritual electives.
Yeah, man, you did something in your other lifetimes, I think, that brought you up to that stuff. That's not usual, that's not normal.
No, I guess not.
And I mean, I like to promote interfaith. I think the dialogue between
Mhm.
different religions is so important. But it's just the story you just told, that these people, they follow the preacher and they feel, oh, this is true, and they maybe apply it to their life and they have experiences. And it's great. But then maybe they say, there's some club over there, Muslim, they meet. You want to go? And they might say, oh, no, 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 come on. Pfft, wrong way.
Yeah.
But it's important that we dialogue, and then you can
Yep.
find out, man, there's a lot of stuff in common in a way, That's my point of view. I don't
Yep.
know
I was
others.
I also like the interfaith dialogue, and there was a book I owned at one point. It was all about world religion. It was a world religion comparative. each chapter would cover like a topic like I think they call it the Decalogue or something like that. But but they said, every religion's got something pretty equivalent to a Ten Commandments. And it just started going through all the various religions. It's like, well, Christianity's got this, Muslims have this, Hindus have this, Zoroastrians have this. And it was just going through all the world religions, and you see how similar they all are, really.
And you just mentioned four, but actually there are 4,000 different religions on this planet, and
Yeah,
then a lot of flavors of these as well.
this one kind
So
of this book kind of focused on the major six or eight, but occasionally it would pepper it with other ones. Like it would pull quotes out of um, you know African Zulu religions and everything else. So it was just like, because actually it was funny because one of the chapters was on karma, and they I think it was an African quote. They said it was something to the effect of, if you throw ashes into the wind, it will fly back into your face.
good advice. Yeah,
You know,
here in the north, you have to, you have to take care when you take a leak though on the side of the street. You have to look where is the wind coming from.
wind shear is a variable. Yes.
All right. Yeah, that's great. Let us talk about something that you might have a little bit of experience. And I actually, especially as I have a lot of contact, kind of yeah, teaching young people, I see them using AI deliberately. They think, oh, this is the easy way out. And not only them, but the whole world is kind of like, wow, that's the next great thing after ice cream. I love it. And it makes my life so much easier. And then I see them missing the point because they go to a university, they want to learn, and then they use AI to do their homework. So their learning is it's kind of learning a shortcut, like it's called copy and paste. That's it. I mean, they don't even bother to read it sometimes.
You know,
It's so funny. And
that, that,
I'm
that, that,
worried for
that-
them. What can we do? I mean, please, people, wake up. There's something special in being a human.
well, I don't quite downplay it like that. I mean, to a certain extent, the same argument could have been made by those people holding on to their last abacuses, that math is going away. So it's changed. Yeah, there's calculators, there's graphing calculators. It was funny because when I was in school, my geometry class, or I think it was geometry. It was something akin to that class. I think it was maybe one of the algebras. It was the one where you started graphing, and the graphing calculators had just come into predominance was as I got into school, and so the teacher had banned graphing calculators. Goes, you cannot use graphing calculators. It's banned. You got to learn how to do this. 4 years later, my sister's going through, same teacher, graphing calculators are required.
That's a change.
Yes. The same thing's going to happen with AI. Basically, it's changing. It's going to change education, I think, in that having all the answers is no longer going to be so much a big deal, because much of education is just stuffing facts in your head. You're just memorizing. Um, Funny enough, most of education really doesn't teach you how to think or strategize or do any of the things that would be valuable in business or life. They don't even teach you how to do your taxes. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's true. It's a
It's mostly
mysterious thing to do your
it's like,
taxes.
yeah, it's just, memorize these facts, learn how to write, learn how to read, do basic math. Good enough, off you go. But it's changing it where you don't really need, I think education isn't going to be about memorizing all the facts anymore. I mean, it'll start out that way at first. I mean, you still have to learn your multiplication tables and things like that for life. But I think later education is going to turn into learning how to ask the right questions, because AI is all about the prompt, and the prompt usually is coming down to a question. So you have to ask the right question, otherwise you won't get the right response.
Oh man, I see the point. I can relax. I think still young people have some questions. You know, even if
Yeah.
it's maybe in the beginning it's kind of material, but
Well,
maybe they have to
it
go through that and then eventually.
well, AI will also improve our thinking ability because most people do not know how computers think or basically follow that rigid logic of computers. And so when you're putting in an AI prompt, you have to understand it understands the rigid logic, not the fuzzy logic humans usually follow. And it uses words much more literally than we do. For those ChatGPT users, they may not realize there is a difference between the words simulate and emulate. A lot of times in English, we use them interchangeably as if they're the same word. But actually, the way AI looks at it, emulation means I'm going to copy this 100%. Simulate means I just got to be close. 89% is good enough.
All right. Makes stuff easier.
Yeah, the thing is we don't use our words as clinically as AI does. We are much more sloppy and just let the words flow. And if anything, as AI gets embraced, it's going to increase not only our ability to ask better questions, but we'll have to ask them logically with much more defined English than we're used to.
You know, there are the godfathers of AI, and some of them they sound the alarm. And like one argument I heard last week from some guy who's not a he's not a scientist in that way, but he said, "Yeah, man, you know, if people look up how to make a bioweapon, or maybe even buy a robot to do the bioweapon, so it's a kind of a dangerous thing as well because it empowers people."
That
And
information was on that information was already on the internet, though. I mean,
yes,
I
can
mean,
you send me a link? No, I'm sorry, I'm just don't.
I I looked that stuff up when I was in college, and this was
All
a while
right.
and this was a while ago. They told you exactly what it would take to build an atomic bomb. You could build thermite, TNT, whatever you wanted. All the recipes been online for many decades already.
Oh, I'm so grateful you chose not to use this information.
Well, the thing is it's out there, but AI is not going to make it really. I mean, it doesn't make it any more available. I think it's just as available before AI than after. So the people are like, oh, people are going to misuse this. Actually, the one area that'll make that actually is a little more scary, I guess, is the fraud people who are using AI. So they with a little bit of information, the messages and texts we get are getting more deceptive because they're now able to emulate people we know with very little information.
Did you have an awakening then, or what happened exactly? I mean, are you.
I mean, the awakening, the enlightenment, the liberation, pick your term. It's not really it's not an experience. That's the one thing. So many people are going, they're looking for some kind of experience, but it's not an experience. It's more like a shift in one's fundamental understanding of reality. It's for me, it was just things clicked in place. It was like, I'm looking out, like I'm always looking out, but suddenly it made sense. You know, I'm like, oh, it's kind of like it's kind of almost like a eureka moment where it's like, you've been looking at something for a long time, but you couldn't see it, and then suddenly you see it, like, there it is, I see it now. It was that kind of feeling. Um, and so it's a fundamental shift in world, personal. It's not really a personal view, but your worldview. Funny enough, that's in Buddhism they call it one of the uh, noble what was it noble eightfold path. The first one is samadhi, which is right view, and really all of Buddhism comes down to that, because if you think about it, that is what awakening is right view. We've had the wrong view up until now. We've taken illusion for fact. We've taken what is not for what is, and so what happens is there's this point where they talk about it as if a veil drops from the eyes, but really it's the difference between looking and not seeing, and then looking and seeing. It's you could be looking for something and looking straight at it and not see it, and then for some reason we don't know why suddenly it's like, something happens where we're like, oh, there it is, it was right there. And that's the kind of awakening that happened, that is like, oh, it makes sense now. I'm seeing what I didn't see before, that's always been there. But I see it now. And so it's kind of and I find that it's that spontaneous visceral seeing is really what enlightenment is. And it stays with you. It fundamentally changes you. The illusion of me just shatters and it can't be believed anymore.
Don't you think that had been like the result of reading too much books? Like
No,
someone who doesn't, you said this is not an experience, but maybe I do not have this vision. I'm still believing, wow, this is me. Wow, there's a camera over there, and I'm very distracted, no, by all these objects around me, and so I might think, oh yeah, this guy, he just read so many books, he's just talking about stuff. There's is
the
that
books,
true?
the books and the practices only reinforce the me, really, if you think about it. As you read the book, you're always filtering it through your opinions, your self-interests, your preferences. I agree with this, so I feel good. I don't like this, so I don't like him. There's all these judgments. Really, we usually come away with the book with a perhaps even not improved, but definitely enlarged sense of me. I've read this. Look what I've accomplished. I've gained so much more understanding.
Yeah, you got some applause from your Catholic friends, you know. You're like,
Yeah.
"Woo, he read the Bible. Oh my God, can you
So
preach us now?"
so I mean, reading the books did not bring enlightenment and can't bring enlightenment. It will never be found in a book.
That's
Because,
a bummer. That's a real bummer.
well, I mean, fundamentally the problem is if you think about it, fundamentally the books are. It's raining right now. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but
No,
oh, good,
noise cancellation is working.
perfect. Anyways, if you think about it, though, a book is just a collection of words, and the words fundamentally only have meaning if there's a common experience. And so when I say chair, you know what I mean, because you've seen chairs, you've sat on chairs. But if I throw out another term that you've never heard before, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Or if it hasn't been part of your experience, think about it when you were young, and people would talk about love, and you would maybe watch movies, a love story movie, or read a book about love, and you're like, I don't get it. And then the age hits where you actually fall for somebody, and you're like, oh, now I get it. It's now part of your experience, and now the definitions and meanings have come about. So
I think we
really,
should talk about that because is that the real love? Okay, let's talk about that later.
what happens though is, so when you're reading books, all you're getting really is, uh, at best, you're getting just a confirmation of your own experience. Anything that's beyond your experience, you're not going to understand. And so you're just reading secondhand accounts of some things that you may not understand. And so there's really,
So that changed for you though. Now you have a different perception. You don't have to filter everything. You don't have to judge. Is that can I say that?
yeah, I mean, I would say things have changed where I now I now kind of understand definitely what I'm not. The illusion of me is shattered. The fundamental nature of reality, I understand. That's non-dual, and so that kind of, but having that direct experience is a bad word, I guess, but I'll have to go with it, because having that experience now, when I'm reading Ramana Maharshi or Nisargadatta Maharaj or any of the other people, and they're talking about it, I kind of know what they're talking about because it's reflected in my experience. But if somebody hasn't realized who and what they are, they'll read it and like, sounds great, but I don't really, they could think they understand, but they really don't. And so in the end, the books are great to inspire, to get you to question. I mean, if it gets you to become more introspective and ask, who am I? Great. That was a good book. But if you come away going, I learned so much, I'm so much better, it really didn't help. All it did is strengthen and reinforce the me. I'm so much better now. It's like, well, great. That illusion is gotten stronger. Best of luck. Yeah.
Hmm. Maybe maybe people don't read books anymore because soon they only ask AI if they want to know something or use it as a teacher or whatever, you know. Books,
that
yeah.
that may be, but it's again, they may not get very good responses because fundamentally generative AI shoots for the most likely word, and so unless you've got a very good prompt, it's going to shoot for the most average answer ever, and then it's prone to hallucinate, and it wants to bend to your will. So if you lead it in any way and give any kind of uh, you know a question that is somewhat leading, it will tell you exactly what you want to hear.
Wow, then we're at the same, you know. Then you tell them I'm a nice guy, and they just reinforce my ego. They say, "Yes, you are a nice guy."
For these reasons, yes.
Yeah, they find reasons finally.
Some
I
are
mean,
made up.
it's good to feel worthy. That's a nice thing.
Yeah,
I support that.
but just as it can't be found in books, it really can't be. You can't get it from a lecture either. You can't hear it and go, "Oh, I get it now." Same thing. Instead of written words, it's now verbal words. Same problems and limitations there.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
some.
in the end, I would say that the best advice I could give is just regularly be still, silent, fully aware, not thinking. And in those moments of quietude, you're actually fully aware. So you're actually looking, and as you're aware and looking, you may come to see. Um, because it kind of provides a kind of an opportunity for awakening. Because what do we do the rest of the time? Well, we're distracted. We're thinking. We're trying to get somewhere. We're trying to do something. We're not really focusing on now at all. we're
No,
focusing. We're focusing on where we want to be.
the thing that is open is our ears. Our ears, it goes in, but the eyes are like projectors. We're not looking, we're like projecting. We have thoughts and then we project them into our world and we say, yeah, that's what I'm seeing. And I wonder, yeah, what. So it's going from the inside out. But some people, they insist, no, 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 you need a master. You have to find a master. You have to find someone, maybe like you, Eric, who knows something, who realized something. You have to follow these people because they already made the step into the right direction. They can
Well,
tell you if you are or not
well,
awakened.
there's a couple caveats. First is, would you be able to identify an enlightened person? And so the person you attach yourself to may not have a clue, and it's the blind leading the blind. They just tell it. They just say a good show. It's hard to say. Assuming they are even assuming you latched on to the right person and they are indeed enlightened, the best they can do is lightly guide you around some of the obstacles. They can't give you enlightenment. They could just go, who are you? That's why I love Ramana Maharshi. He was probably the most laser focused guys in the non-duality realm I could think of. He would just keep bringing it back to, who are you? And people would come to him with questions. Well, I'm interested in past lives, and who was on my past life? And he'd laugh and go, well, who are you now? He just wouldn't even answer the question of who was I in a past life. He's like, it doesn't matter. Who are you now? And he's always pointing at you. Who are you? Who are you? And a teacher could do that and go. He could point out where you're distracting yourself. No, you're distracting yourself. You're sending yourself back into the weeds by doing that. Keep on track. They can inspire. They can maybe provide some motivation, get you over some of the traps that you might fall into. But in the end, this is why Zen Buddhism, they call it a gateless gate. They can't bring you through the gateless gate. You got to step through it on your own. Basically, they can just go, keep doing that, and it may or may not happen, but keep doing that.
Well, I entertain myself sometimes with music. I'm interested in music, so we have something in music. It's called resonance. So
Yep.
I strongly believe, like when you are close to people, those are kind of awakened, or they know something, or they are sages. They vibrate physically in a different level, and somehow they emanate this vibration. I know
say
one story personally. There was like a couple of journalists. I heard it from one of them. They were waiting for the Dalai Lama, and while they were waiting, some of the journalists, they said, man, this guy, he's so fake. I will tell it the world. I will expose this guy. I do 3 questions and he will fall to the floor, And they were like really, pumping themselves up. The moment the Dalai Lama stepped into that room, the people went like,
Well, there are stories like that. There's even stories of Ramana Maharshi being like that. But what people fail to recognize is also a lot of people just saw him as an eccentric old man. A lot of people did not recognize him as a sage. A lot of people just saw him as a normal guy. And so what's weird is, why is it some people are floored by somebody's presence and other people are like, no, there's nothing there. Then there's things like, there's an interesting documentary video called Kumare. It was done by I think he was an Indian American, could have been Indian Canadian. I'm not sure, but anyways, he went to filmmaking school, and then afterwards he decided to do a documentary, and he was like, second generation, so his grandmother had the thick accent. They went to back to India regularly, and so he decided to do a documentary video where he grew his hair out, adopted his grandmother's accent, threw out kind of some classic phrases that he learned out of Hinduism, and basically put himself out as a guru. And over the course of the film, he gathered quite a following. And there was people adamant that he was an enlightened sage that had supernatural powers, that they could feel him when he entered the room. And off camera, he's like, I don't have a clue what they're talking about.
Oh my God.
Even at the end of the film, he revealed himself to everybody, saying, I was a faker all along. I'm just a young filmmaker making a documentary. And even then, when he outright said this was all faked, a couple of them still said, no, he's just trying to stay hidden. He really is a spiritual master. So there is that tendency.
Thanks for sharing.
There's that tendency within humans too. If they have the right look, they say the right things, we may feel things that have nothing to do with the person we're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but you're talking about, commercials, because they trigger certain feelings and then they attach it to the product. Cluck.
Yeah. Well, the thing is the same thing happens in spirituality because you're talking about resonance, and I'm like, I'm not saying there is absolutely no resonance, but what I'm saying is resonance isn't particularly always recognized. Furthermore, resonance that doesn't exist is also recognized, and so it's kind of a hit and miss thing. But I will say that people that are very very present. I mean, Eckhart Tolle talks about this. People that are very very present. There is a certain amount of resonance that tends to calm the other people around them down. Um, just like if you enter a room with a really agitated, angry person, it just kind of wires you up a little bit. So, I mean, there is a certain amount of resonance that way. But when you talk about, well, they're enlightened and that is what's resonating, I don't agree with that. Because whether you are awake or not, it's all the same. I mean, in non-duality, there's no other. There's no separation. So what's resonating? There's nothing to resonate with.
Okay.
That's why it's really
Nice.
it's really funny because some people, even followers of Ramana Maharshi, would say, "Oh, I feel him when I'm in the room, but when I go home, I miss what I felt." And it always struck me as weird because I go, if you really understood what Ramana was talking about, you would still feel it with your room 1,000 miles away. It doesn't matter
No
where you are.
separation.
There's
No
no separation.
separation.
It doesn't matter where you are. You would feel that all the time.
Oh man, yeah.
And
I
so
even I talked to Ross, and Ross he experienced Ramana Maharshi with him. Although Ross is far too young. I mean, he was born after Ramana Maharshi already left the planet.
well, his body left the planet, but I mean, Ramana said it best. I mean, people were, already wailing and lamenting his soon to be death. He was on his deathbed, and he says, they say I'm dying, but where would I go? I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Is basically what he said. He goes, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here, ever here. And
Hmm.
so, if you want to know what being in Ramana's presence felt like, you could feel it now.
Hmm.
It's still
I
here.
think,
That
yeah.
the self the one self is eternal. It's always here. And whether it is Ramana or you know Ramana Maharshi, Eckhart Tolle, me, you, doesn't matter. Anybody, it's still there. The thing is what we often resonate with is the surface. And most humans, our surface is rather chaotic. It's full of ego and activity and struggle and suffering and all the stuff going on. And that's normally what we resonate with. But if you were to change what you were resonating with, change your tune and resonate with the self, well, then the self is everywhere, is everyone.
Yeah, then I'm have to let go of my brilliant mind and make things simple. That sounds a little bit scary, you know? I think stuff should be more complicated.
It is surprisingly simple, yes. Not easy, but surprisingly simple.
Yeah, such a great thing, non-duality, and so many people they don't even know about it. They don't know that it exists. They don't understand what it is
It's
because,
it's
as you,
it's ancient. Yeah, I mean, almost all world religions have it to some degree. I mean, what we usually call non-duality comes out of Advaita Vedanta and Hinduism. But also Zen Buddhism, because Buddhism and Zen in particular is very non-dual in nature. But then if you look into like Islam and the Sufis are very non-dual. They're all about unity. If you look into the Christian mystics, they get very non-dual. It's usually the mystics of all the religions are the ones that ended up falling into the non-duality. Because the mystics actually want the direct knowledge and experience. They're like, I want to actually know it directly. And in the end, it's a non-dual realization.
even for Christians. I wonder, what are we doing here? Why are we sitting here talking about that stuff? Who's asking us to have any opinion about it? I mean, it's nice to talk to you, but actually, we're exposing ourselves where maybe I have an intention, oh, I want to save the planet. Come on, people, wake up. Is that necessary? Should we just turn this off now?
Well, the thing is nothing is necessary. It's not. We don't need to do this. It's not required. But it's one of the games we play. I mean, this is an entertaining game, so yeah, I'm all for it. If someone else's game is Save the Planet or something, go for it. If your game is becoming a millionaire and making it big financially, that's fine. And none of that is actually contrary to spirituality or non-duality. Um, but the trick is to realize the game is kind of beside the point. The game isn't that serious. And we usually take life way too seriously.
Oh my God, yeah. You're
And,
so right about that, yes.
and so, and then, but Alan Watts, he said beautifully, he said it's the kind of the difference between playing seriously and playing sincerely. Because, if it is a game that you're playing, if you're too aloof, if you're totally detached, going, it doesn't matter, and you're disengaged, and so you don't even try to win, the game ceases to be fun for you entirely. Also, it ruins the fun for everybody else, because I don't know if you've ever played a game with somebody who doesn't want to win, but it kind of sucks.
That's true, yeah. You have
But
a very nice video about that, and I
yeah,
like about.
and so
I thought that's a very valuable point. I see a lot of people, they play really weird games, not so nice ones, like they wanna achieve peace with war, or maybe they want to be more healthy by starving themselves. And actually, what I found out, or what I heard from statistics, that actually people, those are in their early life already, they are biased a little bit more into spiritual questions. They have a longer life and a more happy life. Would you
yeah,
agree with that?
I would say so. Of course, that might be just personal bias. Because I mean, I started out when I was 16, so and I would say, yeah, my life has been pretty happy. But I also know at the same time, spirituality also brings some people a lot of suffering and, like, misery. Because I know some people are like, the problem is they struggle too hard. They're trying to get to a goal, and it's like, I'm trying to get to this, trying to have this, trying to be this, but I can't get there, and they just make themselves miserable. But that's because they're looking at spirituality as an end game, and they're trying to get to the end. But I think for other spiritual people, they're able to see kind of the game of life aspect, and they tend to be more happy, more healthy. The healthy in particular, just because there's less stress.
Yes, people, please. If the one takeaway, relax.
Relax,
Relax.
or at least look at stress differently, because there a lot of the psychologist studies now. There was a good TED talk on this, but there was a woman who talked about a multi-decade study into anxiety and stress, and she goes, well, they confirmed it, that those with high stress definitely do have shorter lives, tend to have more diseases, yada yada, but only if they believe stress was a problem.
Oh, catch 22.
They said funny enough, there was a small group of people that actually didn't have a combative stance with stress. They actually saw stress as almost kind of a good thing. I'm getting ready to take on this challenge, so yeah, there's a little bit of stress or anxiety or whatever. And they kind of embraced it. And they said, funny enough, what ended up happened is when people are okay with the body reacting in that way, it doesn't tend to constrict the blood vessels and things that would cause heart disease. And so usually in that, even if you're able to take more of a relaxed attitude to stress, where it's like, yeah, it's a little tough, but no big deal. It actually is probably more healthy than just like this stress is killing me. Yes, it is because you believe it is.
Oh, this is so mean. Yeah, it's just the world. It just it creates itself by our beliefs in a way, right? We
Yep.
are so powerful. People like look over it. They are not aware that they're carrying all this heavy weight in their mind and run around and like projecting all these not so nice thoughts into the exterior, and then they judge about that this is real.
Yep.
And you kind of change that, and because through your awareness, it's you see everything somehow new,
Well, I
fresh.
mean that's part of the keys of to be present is to take more of a ever new, ever fresh look at the world. Because if you are, if, let's say you've got a tree outside your house, and every day you're walking past the tree as you go to work or whatever, and time passes, and you may find that it's an interesting thing if you actually just stop and look at the tree as if you've never seen it before. You may find, yeah, I haven't seen the tree in decades. you know, you just have this mental image. It's a tree. It's this kind of tree. It looks roughly like this, and it's just that image you see as you kind of superficially glance as you pass. And we do that with everything. Actually, Eckhart Tolle had a funny story between a married couple with the exact same thing. He goes, one could look at the other one breakfast and just realize they hadn't seen him in decades. They've been just interacting with their image of their wife or husband, and but we build up these images and then we take the images for reality. So we're just trapped in thought. We're not actually looking. And so one of the things when people are like, well, I'm trying to be more present, what do I do? And I go, learning to look more deeply is key. You need to keep looking, because I said, there is this, it's kind of a function of the evolved way our brains and minds have gone, is unless it's significant, whatever we deem significant is, it tends to just push it away as a superficial level. And what happens is we need to be able to look at something and keep looking, even though our mind goes, I know what this is. I don't need to keep looking. No, keep looking. Because, let's say you see a tree, you see another tree. Like, did your mind just say tree on both accounts and you see them as equivalent? Or did you actually see them and see how they're different?
That's
because
so good. That's so
because it's
good. I
because
mean, I sometimes I walk in the woods here because they are very close, and I walk there and sorry, I walk there and I look at the trees. But if I should sit down and like the police ask me, so how did the tree look? I would say, oh damn it, wow, phew, there's too much. I can't. It's so complex. There's so much to see. I mean, and
there's more data than humanly is possible to take in. That's why that kind of exercise helps us be present, because there's kind of a spectrum. It's There's only so much conscious awareness we have, and so it is possible to be so in our head, so in thought and planning or something, that we bump into a lamp pole because we just didn't see it in front of us. We just lost touch with reality. We're all in our head. It's possible to be on the other side of the spectrum. You could be so with the now, taking in so much data, there's just no room for thought. That you're just like, wow. You start looking at the branches of the trees, going, that is kind of cool how they arc and snake, and it's like you just never saw the shape before because you never looked. And it's
That's
like,
a good advice because so if we have just a limited range of attention, then we should like take care of it. It's valuable, and we should be always present about this little range of awareness.
yeah,
Where are we putting our awareness? Where do we invest it right now?
yeah, because it's do you want to spend it in ruminating on the past, daydreaming about the future, daydreaming about something that has nothing to do with reality at all, or do you want to invest in trying to be aware of what actually is going on, the real juice of life that's going on, because the rest of it is just mental imagery. It's like, yeah, you can spend all your time in mental imagery, but you're never really going to know the world or yourself that way.
I
But
understand that our spiritual development is helped by divine source. In a way, it puts right the stuff in front of us, which is necessary for us to spiritually grow, or yeah, to grow in all kinds of. I mean, God puts food in front of us to eat it. Come on. So we eat it and then we grow. But so many people, they just dismiss that. They say, no, 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 no. I want to play video games, and I don't want to be present here. I'm planning on my future. I know exactly what kind of bag and car
oh,
I need.
well, the thing is, not that playing video games is bad, but you gotta, because it is also possible to play games, even a video game, with presence, awareness, and without thought. So I mean, it's one of those things where you could be really enjoying the game or the movie or whatever. Um, but it's one of those things where, yeah, we only have so much bandwidth for conscious awareness, and so I like trying to put as much as possible on the here and now. Um, because when you really get into it, it's a constant moving kaleidoscope. It's never the same from moment to moment. I mean, it's just amazing looking at everything. And if you can touch into that, it does bring a sense of awe, which also is kind of a transcendent experience of its own.
Many times when people like Swami Vivekananda or like from the Vedic traditions, they talk about when you practice yoga a certain way, when you come into a kind of enlightenment or awakening, that somehow your Kundalini opens and certain energies open, and you kind of you have spontaneous knowledge in a way. I mean, even Jung talked about it. You can connect with like a universal knowledge. Did something like that happen to you?
Um, Not really. I mean, I know that. I mean, really, it's kind of funny because there's been many yogis, including Paramahansa Yogananda and others, where he talked about, as long as you're high minded, the thoughts are on God or devotion or whatever, the Kundalini is always going to want to rise naturally. and so and so, it might be more felt if it's being forced through resistance. So I don't want to say there was no. I wouldn't go as far as say there was no Kundalini movement or anything. It's just I didn't experience it. There was just this awakening and a spontaneous seeing what's always been there. That seeing brings knowledge, so yeah, I guess the spontaneous knowledge would follow. But there's similarities, but I would say a lot of times in that they make too big of a deal of energy moving around, as if, yeah, if I could force the energy here, I'll wake up. And I've come to understand that fundamentally we can't cause it. It doesn't matter what you do. And so, yeah, if you want to try to force your Kundalini to do this, that, or the other thing, if anything, it's a backdoor reinforcement of a me. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I should get this result. And it doesn't work that way.
Oh yeah, it doesn't. From my own experience, what happens to me is that I'm listening to you, and there's maybe some things you say, and I feel them. They are true. I know it just because inside it feels. It makes total logic, you know. I don't know if anyone listening to us has the same experience. Maybe give us a comment about it. But can I trust this feeling that somehow I recognize truth?
Well, it's definitely something to be aware of, because sometimes things hit us that resonate, so to speak, and it sometimes will kind of open the door for further understanding. Um, I don't know if I would put a ton of stock into it, though. I mean, it's not one of those things where it's like, um, because sometimes
Don't make life decisions out of that.
yeah. Well, the thing is it's a tricky question to answer, because it depends so much on the person. Because if they have anybody who's got strong opinions is going to feel that same flush every time their opinion is agreed upon and go, as soon as an authority
Applaud it.
as soon as the authority figure goes, yes, that's right. Oh yes, I feel it.
Oh, yes, I made it.
But if the same person says something contrary, it's like, no, that feels just so wrong. They've got to be wrong. That's just
Yeah,
your
no.
own.
Sometimes it's physical, you know.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know.
Well, it's emotional,
Today,
physical.
today I listen. Yeah, today I just clicked on some video, and then I hear the Gayatri mantra, and I had like, wow, this energy, you know, like an electricity going all over my head and my body. And I thought, this is maybe in the same way. What happened when you heard about Eckhart Tolle? How did it? Was it just an idea? Was it physical? Was it a feeling?
Um, no, I mean it was more like his name just popped up, like I said, 4 or 5 times that week, and I'm like, okay,
Quantity. It
that's
was
the
quantity.
well, it was a synchronicity. I'm like, the universe is telling me to go look at it. Okay, I'll find something. Um,
Yes.
and so because it's one of those things where, to a certain extent, if you keep bumping into the same thing over and over and over again in a short span of time, that's usually an indication of you need to look at
Yes. Good idea.
it.
Take notice. Write that down now. Write that down.
And so that's really what it was for me. It was just a synchronicity. It was like, okay, he keeps popping up in various conversations in the same week. I had heard the name once or twice in the past, and then suddenly in one week it's like over and over and over again. I'm like, okay, I'm getting the message. Look into it.
We're living like in a vacuum, you know. So many people, they run around, and they're actually they think, no, I'm waiting for something to happen in the future, and I'm bored. There's nothing happening, and actually, right where you are, right what's happening. If you pay a little bit of attention, it's telling you stuff, you know. We
Yeah,
should
well,
evaluate
well, I
and
mean,
put value on it. I mean,
there's so much going on, and if you look at it with any sense of newness and wonder, it's really it's really not possible to get too bored with it. We're bored predominantly because we look at something superficial, and we call it equivalent to everything else, and so we just get bored with the sameness. And for those kind of people, they haven't quite realized that it's never the same. You miss something. It's not the same. What are you missing? But also, they keeping a rather playful attitude to life keeps you out of boredom too, because it's and again, you don't want to take it seriously. You don't want to make a big deal of the game, but you want to play sincerely. You want to give it a shot and enjoy the game. Um, and so, when you're looking at just life and how things are unfolding, you can even watch the various games being played, and that's becomes a spectator sport, and it's not that boring. Because I mean, look, think about football fans. They'll watch for hours. They're
I
never
don't
bored.
get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, in 90 minutes, sometimes not a lot happens in a football game.
Yeah, it's like listening to us, It's not so much, but some people they enjoy to do that, and it's yeah. Uh, so, uh, do you want people to connect with you? If so, could you tell me how people could connect with you?
Yeah, well, there's a couple different ways. I do have the YouTube channel, Non-Duality Enlightenment Simplified. I've got a website called non-dualitysimplified.com. That one's kind of a archive of all my past material. So actually, all my old podcasts are still there from almost 20 years ago. All my old blog posts are there. Different little cartoons and pictures I've done are there. So it's kind of an interesting read. But if someone wanted to also just have a conversation with me, I do private one-on-ones where they could just fill out the form and say, "Hey, I'm available on this time and date. Are you?" And I'll get back and schedule them in if I'm open. But yeah, it's that's kind of how I like interacting with people, because non-duality has kind of become my favorite topic. And unless I have people like you or others reach out to me, I don't get to talk to it about it that often, at least in a conversation. I mean, if I could do a video, but it's not the same. Actually, talking with people about this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is absolutely. I really enjoy that, and so if there's people out there they have like really heavy health problems, or they are working on how to get a really nice race car or get rich quick, should they contact you?
I won't be able to help them with those goals.
Oh, damn it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
Or maybe a
purpose
little bit. Maybe they find out that that's not really what they need. It's just what they want.
I kind of stick to non-duality. The viewers out there know who you are. and
Yes,
and
yeah, I believe strongly that somehow people are guided. We have our higher self. We have even, yeah, all that's around us that leads us sometime to certain experiences. So, yeah, so I hope the right people will find you.
thank you.
And so let me ask, like a last, please, last question, please. Maybe I don't know. Be inspired. Give us a final statement, something that you think is important people should know.
Okay. Well, I would just say, in a nutshell, I usually I'm always guiding to realization. And so really I usually say two things you can do. The first I've already covered, which is being still, silent, fully aware, not thinking. That's the same as meditation, being present. There's other names for it, but you're just being fully aware, not thinking. And doing that's not even really a doing. I mean, we're aware whether we want to or not. And we're just being so aware of the moment that we're not thinking. So it's not really a doing, but it's something you can do, and I suggest doing it regularly. But I will say, inevitably, just because the way so many of us are wired, in time you'll say, "Well, I've been doing a lot of nothing. I feel I must do something." And when that happens, the other recourse is to look at this me you've always felt and thought yourself to be. Look at this me and delve into it, question it, play a little devil's advocate. Can you find the exceptions to the rule? Because the devil's in the details. It really is. Because again, we like to deal on a very superficial level, which means we really never investigate the nitty and gritty. And when we really get to the details, we find out a lot of times what we always thought wasn't true. Because I once had a talk with a guy who came to me and said, "Well, I know I'm the body," and I just kind of went, "Fine, let's go with that. Let's say you are the body. Are you all the body or just part of the body?" He goes, "No, no, I am all the body. I know that." Okay. So when you get a haircut or a nail clipping, have you lost something of yourself? He's like, "No, I'm still me." And I'm like, "Okay, well then you're not your hair or nail clipping." Have you had appendicitis? Have you had appendix removed or tonsillitis and tonsils removed? Have you had teeth removed, your wisdom teeth? You're not those. And so as you start delving into it, you start whittling away, and it's like you find eventually you can't find yourself in your own body anymore. So you're not the body. And so it's things like that. It's like you gotta look at your fundamental assumptions and tear them apart. It's like, I believe I'm this. Okay, can I prove that I'm not that? And in a way, that turns into a experiential, viscerally experienced version of neti neti, which is a Advaita Vedanta Hindu practice called not this, not that. And really, all you're doing is you're going, I'm not this. I believed I was this, but I'm not this. Toss. Next thing, I'm this. You look at it until you feel it. No, I'm not that either. Toss. And then that way, like I said, there's only two things you can do, which is being still, silent, fully aware, and the other is diminishing the me. And so you're looking at this me and diminishing it, and that's all you can do.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Eric, for
Thanks,
these
Hans.
wise words.
It's a lot of fun, Hans. Thanks.